Today I'll be showing you the most difficult spider walk variation that I have ever used. So if you love a really good challenge and you're looking to put in some intense fretting hand development work, then this exercise would definitely be perfect for you. And it's only 5 minutes. So it's super accessible. It's very easy to inject into your playing sessions. And I think you will see the benefits right away. And in fact, with that, before we get into this brutal version of a spider walk, I'll remind you that the most basic spider walk would be, 1 fret at a time. Low E to high E. And then high E to low E, alternate picking. Right? And I think you should even pause the video right now and just go through that, because I think if you use that as a barometer before and after the brutal version of this spider walk, you'll see how beneficial it is and how it's changed the nature of your finger dexterity and your finger independence and finger strength, all right, which is important stuff for playing this beautiful instrument. All right, so for the brutal variation, let's just jump right in. We're gonna always come back to this anchor point on the high E string, right? And I'm starting on the 7th fret. You can do this anywhere. The lower on the neck, the more difficult it's going to be. The higher on the neck, it's easier, all right? That's because the frets are closer together up here. They're farther apart down here, all right? So if you are, a guitar ninja, you might be working down here. If you're a mere mortal, like most of us, you might be higher up on the neck. You might start on the 12th fret, for example. All right, but we're always gonna come back to this anchor point. All right, on the high E. We are going to separate our fingers into different combos, every possible combo. So we start here, and we're gonna utilize index and middle finger only while anchoring, right? Keeping our ring finger and pinky pasted to that high E string, all right? And then we're gonna come down the neck. And then we restart at that anchor point. All right, now before I get into all the other combinations, you should watch all the way through, because there are some important, aspects to how you'll change, your thumb in the, in the back of the neck, the pressure you're placing, things like that. So what I want you to recognize here, notice that there's this angle on my index and middle finger as I'm going through this variation. We're all gonna be a little different. Our anatomies are all different. So just keep that in mind. And what I want you to think about is, how is your elbow positioned, right? And how is your thumb positioned on the back of the neck, right? Because that changes for all of us. And it's really applicable to your actual playing, right? You don't want to be squeezing too hard, and you want to recognize that your thumb positioning, your elbow positioning might change as you walk down the neck. All right, so things will change subtly, and as you're playing, in a regular context, the pressure changes, the position of your thumb, the position of your elbow, wrist, all change. So you want to dial that in, and this will certainly help you do that. And try that out. Again, pause the video from time to time and just try that variation to see how difficult it is for you. Are you squeezing really hard? If that's the case, think about pulling the strings in as opposed to utilizing a squeeze to put pressure and allow the notes to ring out, okay? I'll continue on and we'll kind of dissect things as we keep going, but from there, you guessed it, we're gonna go middle and ring. Now I don't want you to put a metronome on, right? When we're just learning this exercise, don't put a metronome on, right? Don't try to rush through anything. Figure out your weaknesses. That's such an important tool if you're really trying to get good at any instrument, right? Where are your weaknesses? All right, so as we go through this, you might notice you've got to go very slow. That's totally fine, right? And you might find that you have to reset. All right, index and pinky, I've got to just kind of reset those. You know what, they're slipping, they're adjusting. Okay, I'll reset them. That's totally fine, all right? It's gonna take a second to get really comfortable with this, all right? For most of us, right? Like I said, for us mere mortals, it'll take a second. Notice that the line on my, middle and ring finger, it's a little more straight up and down. Just something to take note of. You wanna get, really good at observing what's going on with your preferences, and what feels best allows the notes to ring out, most clear, things like that, all right? Because there are gonna be some individual differences. So there's always best practices, but you also wanna kind of figure out, what works best for you, all right? Once we go, middle and ring, remember we always reset. We're gonna go ring and pinky. Now notice as I go through this variation, different angle from the index and middle, right? Almost exact opposites. Interesting. And keep checking in right there. I kind of pressed a little too hard. That's why I don't want to put on a metronome right away, because I just want to feel that out, and I might figure out, oh, you know what? My ring and pinky combination is like super weak. So I might want to go through that a few additional times before moving on to the next combination, right? Or middle and ring feels really wonky, so I might want to stay there before moving to ring and pinky, if you see what I'm saying. All right, but you're not gonna get to those weaknesses and those preferences and where it feels best to move around and those small shifts you need to make if you're kind of powering through the breaks, right? So if you're, you might be able to give yourself a small pat on the back, right? A little win. Oh, that sounded pretty good, but you might inadvertently, even though the notes are ringing out decently, you might be building some bad habits that will translate into some sloppy playing later on. So just keep that in mind. And I know that might break your brain. Well, wait, you played the notes clearly. But all of a sudden when you get into a real context where you're soloing, jamming, things like that, there might be some sloppiness. You might be holding on a little too hard. And even though you got through one line here, it might, lead you to slide in a sloppy way or, be fragmented and choppy. And we're trying to avoid that. All right. So ring and pinky, and then we come to always reset. All right. We come to index and ring. Now for me, this is my weakest combination. I know this, right? I've messed around with this exercise. So I just know that this is my weakest. So I really want to go slow. Like I said, I could, potentially power through the breaks, but I'd rather really feel out. Right? My pinky tries to kind of slide inwards. Could I ring that out? If it slides in, yeah. But would I rather try to kind of wrangle that in a more slow and controlled environment? Definitely. Because it'll just help me with the skill of positioning, of pressure, angling, things like that, that will be helpful in the long run. So I'll go through that once, and instead of moving right on, I'll run through that 3 to 5 times, and then I'll move into the next combination, which if you're kind of, thinking about how we're running through this, would be middle and pinky, right? So we did all of these fingers next to each other, and now we're going, index ring, and now middle pinky, all right? So same thing, check in. For some of you, this might be the most difficult combo. I'm not saying it's an easy one, but just based on my own preference, my own feel, that index ring gives me the most trouble, just physically, I can feel it. And just playing around with that will help strengthen these small muscle fibers. We want those things to be strong as we're playing, whether or not it's a true playing context here, if that makes sense. So. Right, even right there, I can feel, oh, the ring finger kind of messed up, or I messed up with my ring finger. I'll just be a little bit more choppy as I go through it, a little more staccato-y as I go through it, just to make sure I'm holding those things decently. And depending on the day, right? There might be a day where everything's feeling great. Go through, one time on everything, and that's lovely. On this day, maybe I would have hit that 3 to 5 times, all right? Now there's one more combination. That's it. I will say there's no PDF today. Oftentimes I'll put a companion PDF in the description. Write this down, you know, it's easy enough to remember the combinations. Index ring, index middle, middle ring, ring pinky, index ring, middle pinky, and now we're gonna move on to index pinky, all right? And I'll also say, you know, I really wanna make sure all these videos stay accessible, free. That's why I utilize YouTube. There's no, you know, website or anything that you have to pay for additional information. You can leave comments and give me ideas for things. Oh, I really wanna see this, I really wanna learn this. But with that being said, I've got a buy me a coffee link in the description. So if you want to show your support that way, so I can continue to make all of these things free and accessible for everyone, that would be appreciated, but certainly no pressure. I just figured I'd throw that out there before we get into this final piece, which is, like I said, index and pinky. Again, adjust. You can take a second to really get those fingers set. Remind yourself, do not squeeze hard, right? Don't press in too hard. Pull the strings in. And then we restart. And so it's 5 minutes, not because one rotation of all those combinations takes 5 minutes, because I think you should set a 5-minute timer and go through this as many times as you can in those 5 minutes, right? Treat it like a true, you know, warm up or workout or whatever. But if you're recognizing, you know what, I only got through every combination once in 5 minutes the first time you try it, that's perfectly fine. It might take you 5 or 10 more tries, you know, 10 more sessions, where all of a sudden, oh, you know what, I got through every combination and then I got through half the combinations, you know, one more time. And then you try it 20 times and all of a sudden you can go through 2 rotations and you are picking up the pace in a controlled manner, but you're obviously getting better and more competent. And that's a nice objective way to check in with yourself and see that things are getting better and you're progressing. You can also, you know, move down a fret or 2. I started at 7 just because that's a nice in-between, you know, on the neck, right? A nice in-between position. Not too difficult, but it's not as easy as we can make it. But if you need to start on the 12th fret, the 14th fret, be my freaking guest, right? Make it, make it so that you're capable of playing through it, but you don't want it to be the easiest thing ever, but you also don't want it to be like the most difficult, I can't accomplish this type of exercise, all right? And now that you've gone through it, I will again suggest, if you didn't go through and pause as we were, showing you each combination, do that now, right? But recheck in with just the basic spider walk. And then come back down, but check in with that. Are things feeling a little bit more warmed up? Probably. Did that feel a little more competent? Possibly, right? If it didn't, you wasted 5 minutes and you can have a different exercise. You can like and subscribe for plenty of other exercises and approaches to improving your skills. But if you're realizing, yeah, you know what, that felt pretty good, even if you didn't play through the exercise perfectly, holding those positions will still have a really great impact on your fretting hand and your fretting hand capacity, strength, dexterity, finger independence, etc., etc. All right, so anyways, that's really the deal. Nice 5-minute exercise, throw it into your routine. I would say if it's, giving you some grief and it's like, ouch, that's I'm not ready for that. I have a beginner warm-up that I think would be really beneficial for people who might not be ready for this one. And but that's really the deal, right? You might want to put something on the front end to get them pre-warmed up so that you're not just jumping right into this until you're ready for it. But I'll leave it there. That's my final piece of advice. Hope this was helpful for you all. I really appreciate you all checking it out. And I will see you all on the next one. Peace, love, guitar.